third season. He's yet to lead the Dolphins to the playoffs, but this offseason, Miami adding a bunch of new weapons, including upgrading their offensive line and, of course, trading for Tyreek Hill. Hill has a new podcast, and he brought Jalen Waddle on the podcast, and they were talking about how important this year is for their quarterback. Listen.
You know, in the NFL, they only give you like 2 to 3 years to be a successful quarterback, especially if you're a first-round draft pick. And if you don't succeed after those years, then it's kick rocks, man. So basically, they don't put Tua into that. It's basically his last year, man, just to show people what he got. It's going to be a lot of people taking their words back on what they said about Uno.
I ain't going to lie. That boy looks scared right now.
Okay, so this is the conversation that his receivers are having right now. Diana Rossini, what is your reaction?
Can we stop doing podcasts? Can we, wait till we get to training camp? Can we just, wait till we see Tua throw the ball to Tyreek cleanly with actual defenders out on the field? Look, I love when teammates have each other's back. You should. It's great. But this is building the pressure, and it's mounting. And here we are in mid-July talking about Tua again. And look, we could sit here all day long and figure out a breakdown and analyze, is he actually going to be good? Is he good? Is he the future? None of us know yet. But by having Tyreek Hill, who is a gigantic member of this offense, we know what the Dolphins did to get him here, continually talk, which, by the way, I don't recall Tyreek Hill doing any of this talking when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. Because Andy Reid probably had a very, strict rule with how much media his players could do. All this is doing is just creating and putting more pressure on Tua, who has pretty much, all the pressure in the world on him this season.
Yeah, I mean, that was Tyreek Hill on his own podcast, so he's not being asked hard-hitting questions. He's just raising this all on his own. And, Lewis, it is a fascinating scenario. But the very first thing he said is, we give up on quarterbacks after 2 or 3 years if they're first-round picks. They can go kick rocks, whatever else it is. So there is that level of pressure on the young quarterback right now, yes?
No, there's no question about it. Look, we do it in the media. As soon as people do not instantly give you the return on investment that you think that they should, we systematically start to tear them down and say, well, they need to find someone else. Well, they need to go and find another young quarterback and find someone else with a bigger arm, bigger upside, someone who just shows that they can get it right out of the box. And look, I think with Tua, we lose perspective on, what he was dealing with from an injury perspective when he came into the NFL. But I think we lose perspective on maybe the dysfunctional relationship between him and the coaching staff while he was down there. We lose perspective on the just absolutely atrocious offensive line and lack of weaponry, lack of run game surrounding him. Now, I know people say, well, when you're the fifth pick overall, you don't need all that. You need to be able to transcend all that. And you need to be, as Chris Canty says, the force multiplier and make everyone else better. Well, sometimes we overuse that phrase in terms of, you can't make offensive linemen block better. You can't make running backs run better. You can't make wide receivers faster. And I'm not saying that, some of the onus isn't on him. But I'm telling you, this football team right now, I will say this, though. This football team, with the additions that they made on the offensive line, starting with Teron Armstead, Connor Williams at offensive center, with Jalen Waddle, with Tyreek, there's no question that this is a lot of pressure on this young man this year, and they are adding to it. But look, that's just the way it goes in the NFL when you're the fifth pick of the first round.
Yeah.
How do you see it, Canty?
I see it the same way that Lewis does. The organization has eliminated all the excuses as to why Tua can't get it done. But to Diana's point about teammates putting pressure on him, look, there's going to be internal and external pressure based on the expectations that the Dolphins have. And if Tua folds under that, then he ain't your guy anyway. So I don't have a problem with Tyreek Hill coming out and stating the obvious, because the reality is the Dolphins have not one but 2 first-round draft picks next year in a quarterback-rich draft. As many as 6 guys going in the first round is what's being projected. So, yeah, Tua better get it done, and if he doesn't get it done, then he's going to be out of a job, and Chris Grier ain't going to be that far behind him, because guess what? Chris Grier is the GM that passed on Justin Herbert in order to draft Tua with the 5th overall pick 3 years ago.
Go ahead, Lewis.
And how about this? Maybe, just maybe, Tyreek and Jalen are telling the truth. Maybe they do really like what they see. Mm-hmm. This guy was the 5th pick of the first round, okay? He was lighting it up down in Alabama and throwing the football, and we were all sitting there going, man, this kid can play. Okay, so it's not like all of a sudden we're talking about some bum or some scrub who all of a sudden just duped his way into the top 5, into being a top 5 pick in the first round. He earned that. he deserved being drafted where he got drafted. Now, what happens is when you have a guy like Justin Herbert who gets thrown into the fire out there, in L.A. on a moment's notice and all of a sudden just takes the world by storm. I'm like, look, then all of a sudden the comparison is going to get thrown out of whack because people are going, you need to be like that guy. You need to be living up to expectations like that guy has. But maybe Jalen and Tyreek are telling the truth. We're going to see.
Go ahead, Diana.
Okay, but Lou, a lot of this also is the fact that Tyreek comes from Kansas City, where he played with Patrick Mahomes, right? Sure. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So when we're listening to him, there's in our mind, there's credibility there. This is a player who just played with greatness. So we're trusting his eye and what he's seeing and how he's been around Tua. So yeah, you're right. Like, he could be right based on the experience he's had, but we haven't seen it yet, and there hasn't been a live game. So I think at the end of the day, I think his heart's in the right place. He's showing support, but I just don't believe it helps Tua.
Yeah, it's no fun though to just talk about things that have already happened. We love trying to project.
You're Mr.
I mean, we can all
Fun,
do that.
Lou.
We can
You're
all
Mr.
watch
Fun.
the tape and go, yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty,
Let's see.
I forgot, Lou. You're Mr. Fun, so.
I will find out. I'm old enough to remember when the league was tanking for Tua, right? So, I mean, it's not that long ago. Let's see what he's able to do.
I know.
There is one unfinished piece of business around the National Football League right now that involves this quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, at this moment still a 49er. Now, back in May, Kyle Shanahan said he expects the Niners to trade Jimmy G, but his shoulder surgery had put that on hold. Yesterday, Jeremy Fowler reported the Seahawks are still monitoring that situation, and so are we. Which brings me back to you, Diana. Where do we stand with Jimmy G right now?
Yeah, let's just talk timeline, right? Because that's really what everyone wants to know. When is Jimmy getting moved? He's getting moved. When, though? When is this happening? And the sense around the league is the Niners are just waiting for the right situation with a team that is in need of a quarterback. In terms of him getting cut, right? Because that's always on the table. Will they cut Jimmy G? From conversations I've had over the last few weeks, that doesn't seem to be the plan. That's not what the Niners are looking to do. They want a trade partner. And the thing is, there will be a market. There will be, right? Because there will be a team that has a quarterback that unfortunately gets injured, or perhaps is disappointed in a performance of a backup quarterback or a quarterback that's on their roster. So something will get done. It's really, we just gonna have to sit here and wait the way we just did with Baker Mayfield.
But in the 10 seconds I have here, Diana, is there a world in which he remains there and becomes the quarterback in San Francisco again, or is that ship completely sailed?
Every conversation I've had with San Francisco is Trey Lance is our quarterback. What else do we need to say to make this clearer? So just based on how they talk about Trey, it does not